We got the news, and I'm going to bring it to you on this week's episode of the Indie Ball Report podcast. Back again, episode number 343 of the Indie Ball Report podcast, and it is yet again another solo affair. I wish I could tell you what's going on with Ryan, but I'm pretty sure either his phone died or he finally was captured by the United States government. So one or the other has occurred there, as I have not been able to get in contact with him for roughly 24 hours. So it's just going to be me, being that it is now 10:45 the night before it's supposed to go out. So with that out of the way, we're just going to run through some of the news real quick. We're going to cover it, and we'll get into more discussion based next week when presumably we are back to a full house here. And there is a lot of news to get to, so we're going to get right on that. Now we're going to start with the Frontier League, who released their schedule on Monday. And there are some slight changes here. The most notable and the most immediate one that you'll be able to notice is the addition of 6 more games to the slate. They go up from a 96 game season to a 102 game season, which will now begin on May 7th. Traditionally, it's been a week later because obviously 6 games fewer means you can start a bit later. I will run through to September the 6th, which is normally when the postseason would start. Regular season used to end a little bit earlier, but even still, roughly speaking, same time of year that the postseason will begin. On that same note, the playoffs will remain a 3-round format, wildcard round of 3 games, conference final of 5, and then the Frontier League final of 5 games as well. For 26, it'll start on the 9th and will run to the latest possible date of the 27th of September. All 18 teams appear to be back. All-Star games in Florence, but we knew both of those pieces already as well. Like I said, want to kind of hold back on the commentary to get more of a back and forth going, because there are a lot of very interesting thoughts that I have about this. I will say the first thing that immediately comes to my mind is I feel a bit for the GMs, especially those that are in a bit of a colder climate, which is essentially the majority of the league at this stage. It's got to be tougher to sell those early May games and those later September games. I don't necessarily know how that's going to go. Already you are a league that does struggle with attendance for some of its franchises, and that the list of the 18 teams, we may believe about 8 of them for the numbers that they actually post, and we believe the other 10 to be anywhere from marginally to significantly boosted attendance, or using some more creative accounting. You know, the old, well, if you count the flex seats and tickets purchased, then actually kind of a thing where technically true, but in the spirit of what attendance is, meaning bodies through the gate, that's not at all accurate to form. And if you want to count it that way to help with your sponsorship sales, go for it. But that's a whole separate issue there. So I am curious about adding the extra 6, why that was the decision, when already you do struggle to get a high average attendance there, and to add more games in on the front half of the year when you're fighting the school still. You're still fighting Major League Baseball's high, even though they'll be around for about a month at that point. And you just have so much else going on between postseason basketball and hockey and the major professional ones. Potentially some colder weather still kicking around for the Canadian teams in New England / now Brockton, as well as the tri-state teams. I got to imagine it's not exactly warm for the Lake area based teams, meaning, you know, your Windy City, your Schaumburg, Lake Erie, obviously, even Washington, you know, Joliet too. All those are probably going to be a little bit colder too, even though it is May. So I'm not sure how much you're going to get there. And it just feels like, from a financial point of view, I don't necessarily understand it. I would like to see more of the dynamic there. So curious about the decision to add more on that front there. Do like the postseason remain the same. I thought the Frontier League postseason this past year was one of the best that we've seen in some time. And while the playoff format isn't the most creative, and you could argue could run a little bit long in the tooth, especially with, again, the sales perspective on it. I can't shake it. A 2.5 week long postseason, while it isn't long in the grand scheme of things, can be kind of arduous to sell things when you're fighting, the 3 different layers of football and having real cold weather starting to come through the areas. That is something to keep in mind and consider. I know some teams don't really love having games into September because of that difficulty in selling them, but it is what it is, I suppose. And like I said, the playoff format did work in getting a desirable outcome, which is a really fun and exciting postseason. So definitely excited about that. Looking forward to having a back and forth with that whole topic there. So something to keep an eye on for the Frontier League. Keeping it on schedules, and this is one that we mentioned on Twitter that we're going to talk about. Now it's not going to be nearly as much for discussion, which is probably to the delight of all of the front office folks that listen to the show. And I imagine there's a decent amount because this is more or less an industry podcast. I understand that. But the Banana Ball schedule has been announced for 2026 as well. And this is always a topic where teams in the leagues may not necessarily like us covering it because there's 2 different products. But at the same time, you're also competing for the same customer base, so it's worthwhile to discuss. And I mean, it's Banana Ball. It is fun. It is different. It is exciting. And this year we're going to get 12 games in independent league ballparks, all of which are going to take place during the season. The first of which is going to be in Lincoln on the 11th of June. Then they'll play 2 games in Newman Outdoor and Fargo on the 26th and 27th of June. We go a whole month without any Banana Ball in a independent park. But you will get 3 games at the end of August, the 20th, 21st, and 22nd in Dealer Park up in Billings. So we're getting some Pioneer League markets involved now. The Birdcage is going to host 3 the following week on the 27th, 28th, and 29th. So obviously Sioux Falls, and then 3 more games in Lexington on September 11th, 12th, and 13th. So if you want to try and get tickets to any of those, lottery is open until the 31st, so end of the month. So you can put in for that. But it is curious to see that, the leagues that got the most games were the ones that haven't announced it yet. I mean, the only schedule that we have from anybody that is hosting Banana Ball is Lexington's. And that's, again, in September, so I don't think they really mind giving up those dates, certainly. And everybody else, they're giving up more prime dates. I suppose the August dates are less valuable as you start to get towards the end of the summer and you get a little bit more fatigue from doing things, I suppose. Those are not as bad to compare to the June dates. The June dates are really the valuable ones there. It is still just curious for me to see that the Pioneer League and the American Association, which have yet to announce a schedule, also have the most Banana Ball dates. I do wonder if lining up all these other ancillary ballpark events is what's slowing down their schedule. Obviously, we know tacos and tequilas is a big thing, much to the chagrin of players in the association. It's a big thing for them. So it is something to keep in mind on as we wait for those schedules to come out. But having that many dates is going to be nice for whoever owns those ballparks. I'm sure in some cases it's a city or a college. And in other cases it is actual team ownership there. It'll be a nice little boost into the bottom line. And again, I understand that, Banana Ball isn't necessarily popular among the baseball executive types and whatnot, but it definitely does add to the budget. It is a fan hit. So it is curious to see it happening in the middle of the season. Is definitely going to complicate things with the field and facilities. So I'm sure Graham's crew is going to love this as well. But anywho, it's just something of note, something of interest to point out here. It involves indie ball, so I figure we'll bring it up on the show. Again, this is supposed to be a topic that was going to have more discussion around it with 2 people as opposed to 1. So we'll get back to that in a week from now or so, or who knows, maybe we'll be able to get a bonus episode out to you to discuss all this in more full. However, we will keep it moving. We will go to some Atlantic League news now with Southern Maryland. They have a new GM. It is going to be Christian Hemall. He has been named the new GM of the Blue Crabs. He's going to replace Courtney Nichel. And previously to this, he was with High Point University, but he's probably better known as the assistant GM of the High Point Rockers. Back when they first got going in 2019, also interned with the Boulders, so there is a connection there. Seemingly he's done well. The press release obviously will speak glowingly of him, so I am glad that we're going to have a more friendly administration to work with over there, and certainly it felt necessary from the outside looking in. Obviously, we know what happened in 24, the tragedy that happened in that ballpark with that regime that was running the show there. But more than that, it just felt very stale there for some time. It felt like a change was necessary. And if it starts at the top, then, hey, all the better. So, it seems like a younger guy getting in here. Seems like a guy that has experience in independent ball in the Atlantic League itself, which is a huge plus to have someone that knows the market, that has experience in the industry itself. It's just a big boom. So hopefully he comes in, hopefully does well. Now we're going to kind of ignore the elephant in the room, which is the High Point attendance has never been glowing, but it also is a smaller ballpark, so that's a factor too. And you could very well argue, hey, his whole thing has been in the city of High Point with High Point University, the Rockers itself, and then to a lesser degree up in New York with the Boulders, and that would be a fair thing to point out. However, I would also say, so what? If he stayed in the same location, if you could avoid having to uproot your family, then that's probably for the best. If you could avoid having to uproot your whole life generally, that's probably for the best. And, you know, I think it's worthwhile to make the change if you feel like it's necessary. So, kind of rambling there. Hate to do that too much, so we'll kind of keep it moving. As much as I hate to shortchange these things, it is going to some awards in the Atlantic League. They released all of them this past week. This is throughout the course of the week, so we are going to just kind of run through them all. Obviously, people know if you've listened to the show before, when we talk about awards, there's not too much to say about them because me and Ryan have our own outlook on these and kind of try to do our own awards. It doesn't always happen. They are what they are. Still going to report them because they are still important. They matter for something. But Executive of the Year for the Atlantic League, they give it to friend of the pod, Brady Salisbury from Gastonia. Promotional excellence went to the Lancaster Barnstormers for the year. Promotion of the year goes to the Bourbon Barrels, a Lexington Legends spinoff. Mascot of the year, Peppy the Pepper from Gastonia, a mascot we spoke highly of when he was unveiled years back. Ballpark of the year, unsurprisingly, is Meritus Park down in Hagerstown, which has been given rave reviews by seemingly everyone from player and staff to city level, newest ballpark in the league as well. So that certainly helps the cause too. Looking at the all defense team, going catcher, first base, second base, third base, shortstop, outfield, pitcher in that order will be Ryan McCarthy from Southern Maryland, Frankie Testado from York, Jalen Miller from York, Troy Viola from Long Island, Sam Dexter, formerly the Twitterless captain of the Fargo Moorhead Redhawks, now of the Southern Maryland Blue Crabs, Beniklinski and Luis Gonzalez, both of High Point, Mark Contreras from Staten Island, and Mike Kickham of York. Postseason All-Stars, again, same order, only this time we're including a DH before the outfielders, and we are going to have a reliever and a closer to cap it. Matthew Scheffler from Staten Island, Mason Miller from Lancaster, Jalen Miller from York, James Nelson and Joseph Rosa, both of Charleston, Brady Whalen of Lexington, River Towns from Long Island, Justin Whaley from Gastonia, Luis Gonzalez from High Point, Noah Scuro from Lancaster, Scott Engler from Lancaster, and Cam Robinson from York. That is how the postseason All-Stars look at it. Again, do not have all too much to add when it comes to Atlantic League things. My thoughts on them were known, I believe, from last week's pod, and we'll leave it at that for them. 4 other awards just to quickly wrap up. Manager of the Year, Jamie Keefe. Defensive Player of the Year, Beniklinski. Player of the Year is James Nelson, and Pitcher of the Year, Noah Skirrow. There you go. There are your Atlantic League awards. They're looking Pioneer League awards now. They kept a lot more simple, a little bit more easy. So we will go and run through those very quickly. So we'll get through the big awards, and then we'll get to the final end-of-year all-star team here. MVP of the league, Christopher Sargent from Ogden, had his contract purchased late. No real surprise there. Pitcher of the Year, Matthew Sock, a guy I believed in for quite some time, gets that one. Reliever of the Year would be Reese Miller from Grand Junction. Rookie of the Year, Taylor Darden from Boise. International Player of the Year, Roberto Pena from Missoula. Sock was also at Missoula. I'm not sure if I mentioned that or misquoted it, but Matthew Sock is a Missoula pitcher. 2, and Manager of the Year is Aaron Miles from Oakland, unsurprisingly. So, looking at the postseason All-Stars, Roberto Pena, first base. Evan Berkeley, second base. He's of Yuba Sutter. Benjamin Rosengard for shortstop of Idaho Falls. Darden, third base for Boise. We mentioned him already. Sargent, catcher from Ogden, mentioned him previously. Adam Fogel slide in as one of the All-Stars from Missoula. Jake Jelly from Boise. River Orsak from Yuba. And then we have Max Jung Goldberg from Boise. 2 of those guys were outfielders. Jung Goldberg was a utility man. Just keep a track on it. DHing from Billings, Jack O'Dowd. A few positions here for the starting pitcher. We have Matthew Sock of Missoula, Brendan Beard of Missoula, and Noah Milkman, or Milk. I believe that'd be Milken. Yeah, Milken. We'll go with Noah Milken from Oakland there. Nick Cardinal will be the first reliever from Ogden. Reese Miller from Grand Junction is the second reliever, and the third and final one is Jacob Hasty from Glacier. Those are your Pioneer League awards. Again, awards are awards. Again, don't watch too much Pioneer League, so I don't feel comfortable commenting on it. But there you go. There they are. And on that note, we have one last thing to get to, which is a final piece of Pioneer League news. Long Beach, we know they're getting an expansion team. We know this expansion team essentially killed the Western Association, and now we have 6 named finalists to get to, and I will give them to you now. You can vote on these through the 15th of October. And your options are the Long Beach Coast, the Long Beach Cruisers, the Long Beach Grit, the Long Beach Groove, the Long Beach Parrots, and the Long Beach Regulators. I feel like Cruisers makes the most sense. Kinda hate Coast, kinda hate Grit, don't love Groove. Parrots could be kind of fun, but a little generic. Regulators works if you want to be a bit different. I suppose you could do something interesting with that branding. It also could be a little out there. Be interesting to see how that shapes itself out, but you guys can vote on that if you'd like. We'll throw the link to the article that has the link to the voting page, make it work a little bit, in the show notes on the website. So there you go. There you have it. And that's all we got. Really quick pod, real quick in and out. Supposed to be longer and was expecting this to be a longer pod until, like I said, Ryan fell off the face of the map. We shall wait and we shall see. Hopefully we'll get you a bonus episode where we go into more depth on all of these and actually have a back and forth discussion on it. If not, we'll be back next week with a stock standard episode and hopefully with both people and with more to talk about. But until then, you guys can find the show wherever you find podcasts. You can find more content like this on the Twitter at IndieBallPod or IndieBall Report everywhere else. I'm going to try to get back in the swing of making a little bit more content, getting that back out to you guys. It's been a long couple weeks, which is why you haven't gotten the September review yet, which is something I'm keep meaning to do, or the postseason wrap-ups for all 4 leagues, which I'm going to desperately try to get all of that out over the next week or so. But yeah, while you wait for all of that, and while you wait for the next pod, don't forget to play